It's on now?
Mhm.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call the Agricultural Committee to order on time, 10 o'clock. We have a goal. We want to do Jared Sanchez, a 20-minute meeting. So let's all try to do that. With roll call, please.
Allen,
Alan present. Good morning.
Doobie,
FBI. Oh, here, sorry, here.
Leonard,
Leonard here.
Sanchez. Williams,
Williams present.
Roth,
Roth here.
Kenyon.
Yes, here. And we have a request from Mr. Sanchez and Mrs. Allen to be allowed to attend remote. Is there any objections?
No.
Seeing none, they are allowed. Is there public comments? No public comments.
Right.
Partners, Steve Arnold?
20 minutes, eh?
Do we have to approve the minutes? Point of order.
All right,
Roth will make a
Roth
motion
makes
to do an unanimous approval. of
unanimous
the minutes.
acceptance of the minute.
There, we're back on
Everybody in
schedule.
favor? Okay, we're done. Now, Stephen.
Okay, I will be brief. This time of year, we're working on, one of the things we work on is farm experiences, and we sold some at a recent gala to raise money for college scholarships and ag literacy programs, but we also have those requests from public officials. We're working right now to set one up for a first assistant deputy governor. We're approaching our meeting and conference season. We have an annual meeting, the Illinois Farm Bureau, where we do our policy development every year, coming up in December. A young leader conference in February, the annual meeting of American Farm Bureau Federation in January. And one of the conferences that's really grown in popularity, I think, especially with growers around here, is the Everything Local Conference for farmers markets and specialty growers. And that will also be held in January in Springfield. I put a couple of things in front of you. One is a harvest progress report from the USDA National Ag Statistics Service. We are running ahead of last year in terms of harvest progress. Slowed down here for a day or so with the rain, but I think that after this rain moves through, we're actually going to get a little bit warmer temperatures, and harvest pace will pick up considerably next week. The other thing that I put in front of you is a promotion from Casey's, and Casey's and Illinois Farm Families, which is a coalition of the Illinois Farm Bureau and statewide commodity groups. During the month of October, Casey's is putting promotional information on all of their pizza boxes for carry out and delivery. In regard to the fact that 96% of farms in Illinois are family owned or operated. So we're really pleased that Casey's has joined us in promoting that. And I think we have 6 Casey's locations in King County. So if you order a Casey's pizza, it should come with a peel off label that may have a local farm family as part of the Illinois Farm Families campaign. That includes the Linkaitis family in St. Charles, the Gould family in Maple Park, and the March family also in the Maple Park area. And then the last thing that I have to report, we have a visual aid sitting on the table here. I think that color is Wanda purple. But the King County Farm Bureau Foundation sells mums, pumpkins, corn shocks, straw bales, harvest decorations every year at this time to raise money, again, for college scholarships and agricultural literacy programs. And they're at our office in the parking lot on Randall Road. It's a self-serve, honor-based type of sale. And those items will be there until they're all gone.
Mr. Roth?
Roth here. All right. How long is the sale on to? Well, I mean, what colors are left, I guess?
Purple, orange, yellow, and red.
Okay.
And we buy all the product is bought locally, but the mums come from Schaefer's Greenhouse, and Schaefer does a program for not-for-profits where they give us a little bit of a
Discount.
price break.
Yeah.
So
Okay. And then I had a question on the crop progress and condition. I know I get almost daily email updates, and it's at the state level. Do we have numbers at the county level?
we do not. I don't know that NAS or the Illinois Ag
The
Statistics
organization that
Service,
capture it. doesn't-
yeah, captures it
Okay.
at that
Just
level.
curious, that's all. Thank you.
Leslie?
So I know we don't, I was asking the same question. Do you have an idea just from like talking if we fall in the good or excellent category in most of our crops, or do we have some farms just from casual conversation that would be poor or very poor?
I would say good. I don't know that there's a whole lot of crop that's excellent in King County, given the but unfortunately, that's kind of true of the state of Illinois. It was not an ideal growing season. We were dry early. We're not as dry as Western Illinois. There are some disappointing crop yields in Western Illinois. A lot of that has been overcome by the technology that's in the seeds over the last 20 years. This kind of weather pattern that we had with, I don't believe we had a rain between the 6th of April and the 6th of June, which might have spelled disaster in previous years. But it's a respectable crop. Particularly the soybean yield, I think, has been hurt more by the weather than the corn yields.
Any other questions, Stephen? Anything else? You're done? Wow. And the Northern Illinois Food Bank is not going to be here, and they're not even online, right?
Right, they're not here today.
They're going to cancel their donation.
Harsh.
I know our friend Michelle DeRate raises food to give to the Aunt Martha's in Aurora. That's all, she raises that, gives it to them. Okay, ARP application.
Yes. So today I'm just covering a presentation for Mark, and I wanted to give kind of a high level overview of the ARPA projects that are being shepherded by the Development Department. So there are currently, we have 5 project areas that we're seeking ARPA funding for, and they're each in kind of different areas of approval. So I'm going to kind of focus on the ones that have impacts and support for agriculture. And so that, so the purpose of the economic recovery and sustainability, these funds, is to really support existing projects and programs. So, in each of these cases, we're not really creating new programs. We're working with existing county programs or other partner-led programs to kind of give them a boost. And while we're doing this, we continue to apply for grant funding, and that's really what we use to kind of get many of these projects rolling to start with. So in terms of what we're doing, working with the ARPA team, so we have to prepare, risk assessments, also known as applications. And then that gets reviewed by a combination of folks. So that gets reviewed by Ernst & Young, the state's attorney's office, to make sure that everything kind of fits the intent of the American Rescue Plan program and all the requirements associated with that. In doing this, we have kind of looked to other counties to see how they have designed programs and how they've used the ARPA funds. So we're kind of, we're making sure that we're consistent with how this is used. And of course, we're working with, proven subrecipients, organizations that have a track record of implementing programs and doing work that's aligned with what these programs are intent on. So among the 5 project categories that the development department is moving along. There are two that have focus areas supporting agriculture. So the first one obviously is the Agriculture Recovery and Sustainability Fund. So that is obviously exclusively focused on supporting agriculture initiatives. And then secondly is the Kane County Tourism Recovery and Promotion for a Sustainable Future Fund. So that's really focused on, excuse me, a number of categories and sectors across the county. And agritourism is included among those, as you will see. So looking at the Kane County Agriculture Recovery and Sustainability Fund, so leading up to the point where we are now, we have been applying for funding on a number of fronts. So that started with the regenerative grazing grant that was back in 2001, a pretty modest grant, but we followed that up with some pretty significant funding allocations for the county. So the Donnelly Foundation grant, the USDA Urban Agriculture Innovation Grant, and the Compeer grant, which was the catalyst for the livestock market assessment. So the livestock market assessment is currently underway, but in the next presentation, I'm going to cover the proposal for a new project proposal, which is being prepared by the Conservation Fund. And so the focus of the Tourism Recovery and Promotion Program. So again, looking at how other counties are using ARPA funds to support tourism locally. And this is very much focused on working with local tourism convention and visitor bureaus to promote marketing, to promote different sectors and opportunities in Kane County. And this was recently approved by the county board at the most recent meeting. So we're expecting this to move along pretty quickly. And so just looking at some of the focus areas of the Tourism Recovery and Promotion Fund. So this is going to look and support the Fox River Trail, outdoor recreation, sports tournaments, agritourism, weekend getaways for families, and food trails to promote small businesses. So kind of a key set of sectors that are well-recognized sectors in Kane County, but can use this support. And so this is going to pay for digital marketing, print ads, and it's going to be led by the Elgin Convention and Visitors Bureau and the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions before the next presentation.
Mr.
Yes.
Roth, please.
Roth here. Matt, on the 5 applications you have in the ARPA, they've all been approved? The ARPA team?
The applications by the subrecipients have not all been approved. The concepts have been approved and the funding allocations submitted by our department, but we're still organizing the applications.
Okay.
Proposals, applications that need to be separately approved.
Do you have an estimate when that'll be done? Because I know there's a deadline with ARPA. What is it, into 24, where you have to decide where all the money's going?
Right.
So-
I believe it's the funding needs to be
Allocated,
allocated by the end of 2024 and
Right.
then
spent.
spent by the end of 2026.
That is correct, yeah. So we're on track for that. Because
Yes,
I'd
that's
hate for us to lose it
right.
because.
Yeah,
of
we're
the-
planning for that with all of our project timelines.
And then since you were talking about the visitor bureaus, are they working like with museums and other sites like that too? I
That's a
have a
good-
bias on that because I have
Yeah.
a little museum.
I would think that they're working with any organization that's drawing visitors from outside of the county and are, amenities, attractions that drive foot traffic, whether it's
Yeah.
museums,
Okay.
sporting venues.
Because there's a
I-
lot of small museums that I would say don't have the the capacity even to do anything like that. And so it's not like they're gonna know even to approach the tourist bureaus to ask for help. It almost, we need to develop that relationship with all the small museums across the county. Because they are bringing in people. I mean, we bring in 2,500 people a year, and we're only open April to November. So,
Great,
okay, thank you.
thank you.
Is that all Mark has to?
That's
Can I
all
ask-
Mark has to say.
We want to know where the chicken ordinance is. We're gonna start
Uh,
lighting fire under
yeah.
his feet.
Uh, I will, that's
The chicken,
something
the
that,
noise and the shooting ordinances. They're all laying up there in his desk somewhere.
I'll check with Mark to see if he has a status update on those.
All right.
Well, I can tell you Ms. Williams, I know there was a meeting, a Zoom meeting with Dr. Thunder. I love that name, by the way. I don't know, I couldn't participate. That was on the noise ordinance. So I know progress is being made. Dr. Thunder's wife had some medical issues. So that one I think is moving along quicker than the other two.
Get warp speed, huh? Norman is so slow. All right,
Right.
are we down to water resources or you're?
I have one more presentation to cover. So I wanted to focus now on one of the other agriculture recovery and sustainability fund projects that we're currently moving through the review process. And that is a proposal submitted by the Conservation Fund that is titled the Farm Business Resiliency Project for Kane County. And so, as I mentioned, we have the one active project funded under this fund umbrella, which is the livestock market assessment, which you've been receiving updates on. And so that received an allocation of $66,000. And so now the new project proposal, this is the Conservation Fund proposal. This includes a budget request of $2,077,700. So this is a bit more significant, and I think also plays to the need to review this and kind of follow proper due diligence in getting this approved at all the levels needed. So the goal of this project is it's focused on supporting food system resilience in Kane County. And it's, it is still very much geared toward responding to the negative economic impacts, supply chain impacts that resulted from the pandemic. There have been, as we know, there have been ongoing challenges that farmers have been dealing with as it relates to land access to capital, having the right amount of technical assistance to support their businesses. But each of these things was really compounded by the pandemic and just put a lot more pressure on farmers dealing with these challenges. So I'll kind of go into how this program addresses that in the next couple of slides, but it also kind of recognizes the unique circumstances of Kane County's geography as as an exurban or a peri-urban county that's on the edge of a metropolitan region. So there are two elements to this this program. The first is a competitive grants program, and it's focused on providing farmers with the means to pay for farm infrastructure improvements, upgrades, equipment, and costs related to their farm viability. So most of the funding is set aside for that. You can see that 1.3 million in that table on the right. And then the second program is the Working Farms Fund expansion. And I'll explain this a little bit more on the next slide, but this is really a program focused on helping beginning farmers access affordable land. So there's some support provided through this program that helps new and beginning farmers do that. And so part of the funding is going to pay for the staff time to focus these program benefits and resources for farmers in Kane County who want to participate in this Working Farms Fund program. Just going briefly back to the competitive grants, we did learn in 2020 from the farmer survey that we conducted that that equipment and operating equipment and supplies was really the top need. So this, so we've seen some pretty consistent data throughout the pandemic to indicate that there is a persistent need for this type of support. Okay, so looking a little bit more closely at how the Working Farms Fund program operates, this is a program that is run by the Conservation Fund, and it looks to help farmers access farmland in metro areas and looking specifically at land that is under threat of development. So this program started in the Atlanta metro area and has now recently started operating in the Chicago metro area. And so at the outset, land is purchased by the Conservation Fund. Once they have acquired it, they recruit farmers through a matchmaking process to kind of pair them with a piece of land that meets their operational needs. And then they enter a 3 to 5 year lease to own arrangement. So they're making payments toward the eventual purchase of the land. And then at the end of that period, they have the opportunity to purchase the land. So in addition to that, this program uses a tool that this committee is very familiar with, which is an agriculture conservation easement. So by putting a conservation easement on this land, that does help drive down the cost of the land to the eventual farmer and land purchaser. So this is all kind of meant to make it easier where farmland values are much higher in metro and peri-urban areas. This is just a kind of a look at how the program has operated to date. So far, there have been 10 farms participating in this program, encompassing 745 acres, 40 farmers, $7 million in land value secured. I don't quite have the breakdown. I believe most of this is in Atlanta, but some of this might also apply to farms in the Chicago area since the program migrated to our area. But you just kind of get a sense of how this, the reach of this program since its inception. Oh, yes.
That's Mr. Roth.
Just a quick question. Quick question. You have 10 farms with 40 farmers. Are they splitting up the farms or is there people falling out and new people coming in?
I mean, given how young this program is, I would be surprised if there has been much landowner turnover within that time frame.
Just curious. And
I mean, I would assume that, that includes, couples that operate farms having more farmers than
right,
the number of farmers represented.
or a family potentially.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And so for the proposal that the Conservation Fund is making to secure ARPA funding, this is kind of a summary of what they're looking to accomplish. So they want to reach 50 Kane County farmers with offers of assistance. And so that, that would be a significant share if we're reaching food producing farmers of a vast majority of that pool of food producing farmers in the county. The program will also award $1 million in financial assistance awarded to farmers as eligible applicants for grant funding for improvements on their farms. And it would also protect an additional 150 acres of Kane County farmland focused on supporting expanded food production. And then there would be an additional $2 million leveraged from this contribution. And I want to make clear that this proposal, through this proposal, none of the ARPA funding would be used to purchase farmland. There are limitations within the ARPA program that would make that prohibitive. So that's not part of the cost proposal. Just a little bit about the Conservation Fund as an organization. An interesting fact, since 1985, the Conservation Fund has protected more than 8.8 million acres of farmland across the country. So land conservation is very much at the core of what they do. And they do have a significant focus on farms, ranch lands, forests, wetlands, and watersheds. But they also recognize that these are working lands and that they want to preserve the economic benefits that these lands can provide as well. So that's an important part of their mission. And then locally, we'll be working with Emmy Brawley. She is the Great Lakes Regional Director and manages conservation acquisition. So she will be heading up this program. And so she works locally. So we'll be working very closely with her, and she has a lot of expertise in this area. So we have a lot of confidence in her ability to manage this. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Leslie?
So is this just food farms, or would like tree farms or horse farms be able to also apply for these conservation easements and these funds?
There is an intended focus on food farms, but there's nothing within the proposal that would limit other types of production at this point. So we still haven't gotten to the point where we're developing the application for farmers. That's going to be another step. So that's something that we're gonna drill down on, but certainly given the focus of, the county's interest supporting food production, access to local foods, that is something that we're gonna, encourage to be a significant part of this. But I can't say at this point that we would exclude non-food producing farms.
Okay, because I know that, I know tree farms take up a lot of land, and then that would be land, if they hopped into this program, it wouldn't be able to be developed, which to me would be similar to what they're looking for in terms of their mission statement. And also when you talk about recreation and things like that, I would think that horse farms would fit in that, because the large horse farms are now being gobbled up by development. I mean, there was a huge one in Barrington that just caused like a civil war virtually over what was going to happen to that property. So I just wondered if it was solely for food or if it was just for farm. I was just, wanting clarification.
I add to what Matt has said too. So because there are two components to this program, this proposed program, the working farms portion will likely be targeted to local food and specialty crop production, because that's the focus of the overall program, which will be small farms. And there will be a conservation easement connected with that. But I will say that in our Kane County program for conservation easements, ag conservation easements, the focus, because we accept federal funds, is on soil protection. So pastures are allowed in the federal program, but tree farms, they are take a real close look at that because of the disruption to the soil quality, because you're pulling trees, you're growing and pulling them out. So we have not accepted any or had really any applications from tree farms or predominantly tree production, but we have on pasture. So we could take a look at it and for that. And then of course, the other portion in terms of the ag infrastructure and those grants, that would be open to all farms not connected or not connected with easements.
Any other questions? Do we want to move on? Janice, you've got a challenge to earlier. Are you first or her? Okay, Jody.
I just have a quick update. We continue to work with our drainage districts on the various ARPA infrastructure improvements. So we will likely have some projects coming through Development Committee specific to that program. The other item I have is we have an opportunity for a federal grant for climate action. We're working that through the Energy and Environment Committee. And with our climate action implementation plan, as you're aware, we have a significant section on agriculture. And if you haven't met Sarah Hinshaw, our new sustainability coordinator, she has significant background in agriculture and nutrient removal as well as climate change. And so as we move forward, we're going to be looking for some of our municipal partners to work with us on that grant application. And we'd like to focus a lot of the county's efforts in regards to that grant towards agriculture and some of our climate action goals in that. So as that continues forward, I will keep this committee up to date as to where we're at and where our focus will be. And hopefully we can get some funding coming to the county for some of those goals.
Any questions? One thing I noticed as I ride around, some of the former wet areas were able to be planted. And we have an area that's been flooded every year for, I don't know, 10 years. It's not flooded anymore. But I noticed out there on Shodine's development, he must have 50 acres that is flooded out behind the outpost on Route 20. Just take a look at it when you go around it. It's huge. And I know he gets big rent money. Big rent money. Somebody will be screaming. All right, now Janice, it's your moment.
Sure. Well, good morning, everyone. I did want to have a little shout out to Jody and her team. And I'm looking forward to working with Sarah in particular because there is a calculation that the Conservation Fund and some other partners created that shows avoided greenhouse gases, and that number, which is a great number to use within the climate action world for eased farms. And so we'll be able to work with them to show that your investment into our easement program, how it yields climate goals. So we'll be working together on that. Okie dokie. So just want to go through a few slides. So this is related to item number 7D, which is going to be a presentation about easements that have come out of the Farmland Protection Commission. They've recommended approval of these. So we're looking for your concurrence on that. And then there'll be a follow-up resolution approving taking the action on those easements. And then just a little bit about the program, because actually when the easement program was created in 2001, there was no ag committee. So the actions went from the commission onto the county board. So we're happy to have you looking at these items. You'll notice that we have, let me just go back one. I want you to see our new symbol that we're on the commission. It's kind of tiny, but we'll be having signs and some other things to identify farms and the program for our ag conservation program. So here's the map, the most updated map that Matt prepared, and it shows in the tan brown color, those are closed easements, which are about 6,000 acres or so. And then the applications are in the legend for the farms that you're going to consider today. I'm not going to have you read everything off of this map. We're going to go through them one by one, but it is kind of a helpful map to be able to kind of look close up on your screen to be able to see how these are situated. You'll see a big cluster there in Big Rock, Caneville. Those are starting, especially with our early farms. And because remember, this is voluntary program. The landowners come to us and say, we want protection. And the program's really sold itself between neighbors saying, oh, I see you have an easement and I want the same level of protection for my farm and onwards. So lots of support within their own community. But I will say we've started to have interest from Virgil, and that's been really, really good to see it moving up. Okay. So I just want to go through briefly the process that these easements go through. This is a really kind of bare bones step by step, but I want you to remember that we have our process and the federal government has their process. We have our budget timeline, they have theirs. None of this lines up, of course. We have our paperwork, they have their paperwork, but because we accept their money, we have to follow their rules, right? So the part of what we're always doing is merging their documents and their requirements with our process as well. So they consider us the entity. We're eligible to apply. You have to meet that standard. And I prove that every year in the documents that I submit to show that we're worthy to manage these funds. And then we, the county, identify farms. Now, sometimes, and again, this is all voluntary, people coming in and interest, you know, when they finally say, okay, I'm ready to do this, and they have their entire family on board and everything, that's when we can start the process. But there often is like a beginning step where they're learning before they commit. And then obviously for us, we have the commission review, the ag committee, and then county board. And on the financial side, that's the local funds are Riverboat, and they go through that process as well in terms of, and then your annual budget for Fund 430. We, and obviously request those funds every year, and the board approves the 430 budget every year. We are working with NRCS, and that's both the local team and there's another level. It used to be a state level. Now everybody works remote, so they could be anywhere in the country, and they're managing the paperwork. And the primary documents, which you'll see in the budget, in our Fund 430 budget, are the survey, the appraisal, the draft easement, which we have an attorney, Jerry Hodge, who also works with the Forest Preserve District, who's been with us through the whole thing. All of our vendors have been with us through the whole program, and they have all of the federal requirements to be able to do the work that they do. And then we have to get NRCS to approve everything. We have final paperwork done internally. We're audited, you know, every year with our internal, sometimes external auditor on our program. So that's our side. On the federal side, they make an announcement whenever they want annually. There's no rhyme or reason when they say, okay, we've got money available. We submit that entity application to show that we're eligible, and then we have to prepare some initial federal forms to show that we're interested as an entity for money, and then some farms as well that we would like to submit. And then lots of paperwork there. That's between both us and the farmer. And then after that, now this is different than it used to be. Now they bring us basically what's called a program agreement, and that's signed by the county and NRCS. And that really secures their side of the funding, which that's one reason why that's important, and identifies the farms. And then from there, we go on into doing all the documents. They review everything with a fine tooth comb. I think we had a difference in preliminary title work and survey and appraisal by like 0.10 of an acre last year. And that caused a huge ruckus, and we had to go back and everybody had to amend everything. So, I mean, they are down to the nth degree on everything. And so, you know, we really have to work with our vendors to make sure they're accurate and everything is lining up. And when you have right of way and other things, it can be complicated. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Roth here. Janice, what's the time frame on normal? I know there's exceptions all the time, right?
Right. These are multi-year projects.
Okay, on both the county side and the Fed, I would expect.
It's basically one process. Right.
Okay,
Yeah, multi-year.
I would expect the Fed to be longer though.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of like you wait and wait and wait, and then you have to respond.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, it's a very long process, but I will say, because we are at the end of the Farm Bill, and we have two funding sources within this. We're trying to move these through very quickly.
Why the money's there.
The Farm Bill was extended for 45 days.
Okay, well, that's
It
good. So,
expired.
yeah, so,
And that's not unusual.
right, and they may come back and say, depending on how that works out, do you have any other farms? So we try to kind of be ready. With
Are
this.
we are still the only county that does
Only
it?
county in
Only
Illinois,
county in Illinois.
only county program in
And
Illinois.
that land will forever be just farmed,
Correct,
just like Forest Reserve. It'll-
correct.
No houses.
I thought we were the only county in the country that's done at the
It's
state level.
Illinois, right? You asked that question before.
Yeah.
We're the only county-based program in Illinois. There are some county programs, but I would say for the most part, they're state programs.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and there is an effort underway for next year to have an Illinois program, so we'll keep you apprised of that as that goes through. So what I'd like to do is kind of go through the applications right now. Just to have a feel for this. So if any of you know the Shoger family down in the Caneville, Big Rock area, this is Shoger Ag. They have 2 parcels that are on both sides of Lasher Road for a total of about 81 acres. There are no homes on the site here, just all cropped. And so they're bringing both in. And one thing that happened with this, first they brought in the southern piece and we're starting to work on it. And then they said, okay, how about if we bring in that 100-acre north piece as well? Not uncommon at all. We have repeat applications. This one's doubled up. So I think some of it's just the comfort level of going through the process.
Did you say the acreage?
Yeah, this is a total of 81 on the south and 100 on the north, 181. Yep, it's on there on the map there over on the left. Okay.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'll go back.
Is the current existing easement also with Shoger?
No, the one on the south is just a few steps ahead of the one on the north.
No, I'm talking about the tan ones.
Oh, those are all other owners.
Oh,
No,
other
Shogers don't own any of
this will
that.
be a bigger
Those are
block.
different.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and in fact, I heard I saw when I looked this up, there's a purchase on one of the ones up there on the north, so it did trade hands.
Okay,
But
you.
yeah, these are some of the original landowners right in this area. Here we have Carl Shoger, who's the son, and Amy. Now, everyone was at the commission level, at the Farmland Commission to present what's really nice about this one, not required, but it's nice. We've got next generation. And so it's just really awesome. They farm next door. So we'll have a nice connection there, both east, west, and north and south. And theirs is about 60 acres. Yeah, and we're in the Big Rock side here of the line. Then we have Souders. This one is interesting. This is a new application that just came in. There are 2 parcels you can't really see. Maybe you could see a little bit of the line underneath because the dark purple, 127 acres altogether. It's all cropped and just south of the village of Caneville. So yes, so this one will be coming through if approved. Maddox, this is one that was on the waiting list for quite a while. They put themselves on the waiting list, and I'm glad that they're coming forward because we'll be able to link up some of the existing easements and create a larger area. This is Lori and Bob Maddox. On the southern piece, they do have their farmstead, their home, and some outbuildings. So as a reminder, we don't include that. Those are, we just cover the cropped area. And that's about 50. When I'm using this acreage, this is total acreage. This is not surveyed yet. We haven't had that done. Kiefer, this is another one that I'm real pleased with because of the next generation. The brothers came together and bought out aunts and uncles, I believe, on the 88 acres that was already approved. So that's in process. I just wanted you to see those parcels for the 88, and then their mom owns that 40. And so they decided to bring the whole thing in. So we have that, really nice, solid piece right there. So, and they're willing to do conservation practices as well. We're having those conversations with everyone separate from the easement process, but that will be happening too. So they're, very forward thinking, next generation. Nice to see that moving forward, making that commitment. And they, as brothers, they work well together too. So we were pleased to see that. Here again is Next Generation. This is Lisa Herman and her son Jared. Jared does the farming. He farms on both Kane and DeKalb side. Really pleased to have him join the program as well. They had been waiting for a while too to participate. So exciting to have that. Also Lucas Strom, this is a repeat participant and also family. His grandparents' farm was one of the very first ones to be brought in, and that's the one up to the far left there. I think it was 2002, one of the original applicants. His uncle Lee Strom brought that in for the family. Then Lucas comes back a few years, I think it was 2016, and brought in that L-shaped piece that he lives on. He is the contract purchaser for the piece in the purple, the blue purple area. With Geneva Bank and Trust, the land being in trust. It's 93 acres all cropped. So in order to proceed with the federal paperwork, Geneva Trust will have to apply, be the applicant. Although I will say there's paperwork for anyone who is the renter or contract purchaser too. So 2 sets of paperwork, but we'll have to work with them to apply for federal, the federal funding. And the next one is Steve Rue and his family own quite a bit of acreage, and I think it's about 4,000 acres altogether within the county. This particular piece was previously approved, but I wanted you to kind of see that there, and also the context of this piece to the north in Virgil, the 40 to the south, or I'm sorry, the 80 to the south was previously approved, but the rest of that acreage will be reviewed at the next Farmland Protection Commission. Those will be some big pieces coming through altogether. Let's see if I had any more. I think that was it. So thank you very much. Have a safe harvest. And we're requesting, after any questions, approval of the resolution.
We have a question.
Actually, I have several, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah.
Do the easements prohibit solar?
Not directly, but I will say that the impervious surface on the farm is limited. And I think it's 10%, but I'd have to go back and look at that to be sure, because the federal government does change that. So when you think about those structures, create the structure of anything,
Right.
you're pretty much prohibiting in terms of community solar. Now, of course, if they want to have their own solar, just like outbuildings and barns and things like that.
I'm specifically thinking of like these solar.
Yeah,
fields
the
that
big
we're
ones.
getting. Yeah.
I don't
okay.
see any way that that would be
Okay.
allowed at
Okay.
this point unless the federal government changes their mind.
I also like to see some of these coming up in my district as opposed to all in Bill Leonard's district. So thank you for that. Can you remind me what the price per acre is? We're paying?
Yeah, the minimum that we'll offer right now up until the next farm bill, because your resolution was that, is $5,000 per acre total. The federal government will pay 50% of the appraised value. So that's going to be roughly about $1,000 from the feds and 4,000 from us for each one of these, unless they appraise higher. And then it'll be whatever that appraised value is.
Have we explored donations of these easements so that a family who has a large land holding could donate the easement and reduce the value of their land for estate planning purposes? Is that something we
Yes.
encourage or have done
Yes, that's a
before?
very good question. So yes, we've had donations. The next one coming through, hopefully we'll have a solid donation from someone for the easement.
Okay.
We have had a couple in the past as well. I will say that we have that conversation with every applicant. only is a tax benefit if they are taking a cash distribution as opposed to doing a 1031 exchange. So if they're doing a 1031 exchange and they're going to buy more land, then often that's not advantageous. But when it's cash, we really recommend that because then that reduces the local match dollars. So yeah, that it's kind of like a math question and we ask them to take a look at that as it gets closer. I've had that conversation with some of them I know are interested. So, yeah, and we're going to try to encourage that more. And there will be other fundraising opportunities in the future that we'll be looking at to offset the cost of doing the easements. It's a good question, though.
She answer your question? So the next thing would be the resolution, which
That's correct.
takes into.
Roth will make a motion.
Leonard.
Leonard will second. Is there discussion on this? It goes to the full board and then, of course, we wait for the money. Roll call, please.
Damage by fire. Pumped so much water into the wall.
Alan?
Alan, I.
Doobie,
Juby, I.
Leonard,
Leonard, I, or yes.
Sanchez. Williams,
Williams, yes.
Roth,
Roth, yes.
Kenyon,
Yes,
passes.
it's approved.
Sanchez,
Well,
yes.
What's the noise?
Thank you very much.
That was Deborah. She's off.
Huh?
The noise was Deborah when she turned on to vote yes.
Right,
You were asking about the noise on the mic?
right?
Sorry, didn't mean to
Is that you, Debbie?
just now.
You have a question?
Not me, just trying to apologize for the noise.
We know you're there. Mr. Leonard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Hill, I've got a question for you. Mr. Williams asked a few questions about exchanges and easements and tax considerations. And you said if it's a 1031, it wouldn't qualify because what they're doing is they're taking that monies to buy other lands. Is that like a Starker trust then?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a Starker exchange.
Yeah, they're kind of avoiding the capital gains.
Delaying
Right,
it.
Right.
Yes.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And, right. Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan. I do have a question.
Okay,
I'll try to be brief. Janice, what does NCRS stand for?
NRCS, Natural
That's the
Resource
one.
Natural Resource Conservation Service.
Thanks.
It's the program or the program that operates the Agriculture Conservation Easement Program.
Gotcha. I was just looking for the breakdown and I didn't see it. My other question, Janice, is aren't there rules about the soil being really good soil? The farmland that we're protecting is because it's the best in the world.
This is true. This is what allows us to be the entity, one of the requirements that allows us to be an entity to even run the program. And then those individual applications, there are 3 categories of what makes a farm eligible. Prime soils is one, or soils of statewide importance, which all of our farms have. And then the second is historical significance, which we don't really use that because we don't have to. And then third, the fact that we have our farmland protection ordinance, and I cite that always, ordinance 01-67 that the county board approved in 2001, creating the program. So we're covered doubly at least in all of our farms. Mhm.
Mr. Roth?
This is just a quick question. Janice, on the new logo, I can see there's corn there. Is the small plants in the background soybean?
I can't.
Because I'm sure those soybeans farmers would be very upset if they're not included.
Yeah, I think that.
Just curious. It's,
So we have to.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think actually there to be
I didn't
some
see
small
that.
vegetables there, so.
all right.
Everybody,
All right. No, it looks very nice though, by the way. Thank you.
maybe you want her to make hats so we could have hats. We could hats with the logo on it.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be a
Shirts,
fundraiser. I like that.
Polo shirts, right?
Right, right.
Mr. Caius has got a question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Janice, I'm curious. It seems to me that the solar projects, even though they're rather large, are really plates on the large open space of ground and are not considered impervious surfaces because the water goes right to the ground right next to them. Is that a federal designation? Does that take that into account, or am I missing something there?
Well, I was on a webinar with the feds when they were going through this discussion, and I think the structure portion, by the time you added up all the structure portions for each, let's say for each of the poles or posts that go into the
Oh.
ground, right, to support that,
Mhm.
then you would exceed the 10% impervious surface limit. Right? So that's why for your own solar, you would be fine because, you know, you could choose to do that. But by the time you add up all of those posts that go into the ground, you've exceeded that.
Okay,
That was
thank you.
that was what I heard from them. So we know that technology is going to change, just like cell phones are now hundredth of the size that they were. And I'm sure that in the future, there'll be something that accommodates that. But for right now, that's their interpretation.
Jody, do you have
right.
something?
I would just add that there's obviously a difference between the county stormwater ordinance and the federal requirements because I don't think we've seen a solar site where we're using the standard Minnesota calculation that would exceed 10%. So I think it goes into the interpretation. Other states are looking at solar panels differently than we are, but by the county ordinance, we're likely well under 10%.
This is Williams here. I guess this brings me to another question then. How would that prohibit wind energy systems?
Heard nothing in that conversation from them, and there's certainly nothing in the ordinance that prohibits that.
But our easement, would that prohibit wind energy
There's
systems?
nothing in the easement that states that.
Okay.
Mr.
That
Chairman,
doesn't mean that there isn't some federal interpretation, because again, these interpretations by the feds are published every year, and one thing could supersede another. So yeah, I'd have to really check that out. I've never had that request. It doesn't mean it's not coming.
Well, and I think too, for Kane County, we don't have the wind corridor that we're likely to see wind here. And obviously with solar versus wind, there's a lot more opportunity to continue farming the land versus the solar, where you are going to have deep rooted native vegetation and will likely not be farming. I know Mr. Van Kerkhoff, Director Van Kerkhoff, has sent some articles that there is some technology kind of on the up and coming basis to try to get movable solar fields that you would still be able to farm under. So that's something that's really of interest that we're kind of watching to see if maybe there's an opportunity to do a pilot program here, but it's very new technology. And so far we haven't seen it work out, but we're still kind of following the news on that to see where that goes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Alan.
Deborah?
Can I ask you, as a farmer, can you toss in an opinion here that if a farmer is cultivating his land because it's great soil and it's successful, would he put or she put a solar field over the best land? I kind of got the idea that some of these solar fields are going on land that is not as productive, but it's a way that a farmer can make that land more valuable. Is there any credibility to that opinion?
The county board could have an ordinance to do that. Farmers are all about property rights. It's my farm. As long as it doesn't hurt you, I can do it.
Actually, it's my understanding, Mr. Kenyon, under state law, we could not prohibit a solar field even if it was on world-class soils.
Okay, good thing to know.
And you know, at the end of the day, it's an economic decision because these rents that they're paying for these solar fields are like $1,000 an acre. That's a lot more than farm rents. So, you know, it puts our farmers at a situation where they can, you know, triple their income. You know, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah,
It's
that's
an
fine.
easy check. And it,
Mr.
it
Chairman,
does
dates,
res-
please.
a lot of money goes to the school out, like in central school system. The taxes from the solar farm are triple what the farm is.
Right.
Dates, please.
Hey, Ms. Bates,
I believe that most solar projects right now are aiming for subprime agricultural land if possible. You know, if somebody has 20 acres that is too rocky or something like that, that's perfect.
I would just add that the solar fields that we've seen come through recently are on highly productive farm ground. So I don't think that I've seen that being the case so far. Obviously, each site is its own site, but they are highly productive fields that we've seen coming through recently.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Walnick.
Mr. Roth,
Recently, there was one application that the solar company had a change, and they said it's to be the first one in this area. One, they're saying where it'd be fully farmable. I guess they were raising them higher. And the other part of that is the moving panels. And I don't know, and I think that got approved. I think this should be an energy committee. We should look at that. And if that's a recommendation going forward, that is there an advantage for us recommending those? If you get more solar out of it, and also you can use more of the farm.
That would certainly, if the technology was there where you could still farm that, that would be much
Right.
better than what
That's
we're
what I'm
faced with
saying.
now. But, you know, I think we also have the constraints of the state statute that was recently passed, because if you recall, we had to enact a solar ordinance by like May 29th.
Right.
Otherwise, we
did.
would have had no control
Exactly.
over them.
I'm just saying, like, make a recommendation that,
Yeah.
you know,
And maybe that's something the legislative committee could take up. too.
right, exactly. Because I think that those are both positives, you know, for both the farmer earning more money with the solar and also being able to farm more. So,
Mr.
but
Chairman.
that would
dates,
fall
please.
under energy, I think. Thank you.
Dates, please.
yes,
Yeah, Energy and Environmental would be happy to work on this. Also, I think there's grazing, so there's some grazing being done underneath solar panels as well. Especially sheep, because goats eat the wires, as I understand.
are we done with this area?
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to move to?
Yes, I would make a motion to
reports on file?
unanimous to put the reports on file.
All in favor, or we just unanimous
Yeah.
consent? We don't need an executive session. Sir, did you want to make say something?
Yeah.
All right,
And I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
yeah, we're not record time, but we came in, but one more thing. Which pizza parlor is promoting agriculture?
Casey's,
Casey's.
give a tougher question.
All right, we have this flower from Kane County Farm Bureau.
I think Leslie should get it.
Huh?
Leslie should get it since she's
Leslie.
first.
You can take it
Question
home.
first,
Give it to your husband and tell him
plan it.
that's for
Or
your
feed it to the
service.
horse.
I will not give that to my horse.
Okay.
Return, say aye.
Aye.
What?
Leonard seconds.
Throw any name in there.
All right.